Okay, let's try this again. I have switched out the camera, so I'm not using my cell phone now, and I have also fixed the camera angle and changed the audio. So if anybody has any information on how it's sounding or looking, let me know. Today I'm taking care of the Camponotus modoc colonies. Well, right now. Let's see if I can't turn that light down a little bit. So one of the reasons why I'm doing this is to get rid of gunk like that, where they pile their garbage up into their food. And that kind of means that they're finished with it as well. So just swapping the whole thing out is a lot more cleanly for them than just refilling it. This also helps me get a gauge on how everybody's doing. Oh, here we've got some workers. So each one of these has one worker and a brood pile, it looks like, which is great to see. Don't understand why they insist on living in their old grubby test tube and they don't just move into the fresh new ones. Let's see. This is hard to, there we go. So these are Camponotus modoc species. This one's got some larvae right there. Yeah, right there. Those two little yellow dots. You can see the workers trying to grab them and take them to safety. So here on this one, you can see the little white bands. Barely. You can barely see the white bands there. On that one, there we go. So on its gaster, you can see the little white striping. That means that it's full. And that's a really good sign when you see that your workers and your queen even are stashing up on food. You want your ants to be plump. typically I use these amp boxes with lids. But there we go. But I keep mine in boxes, so I don't print the lids until I need them. The Camponotus modoc species is the largest in Washington, to the best of my knowledge. The queens are up to 3/4 of an inch long. They also have a pretty diverse caste system, where they have majors, super majors, minors, and then they have elates and in male and female. A lot of ants in Washington don't have that diverse of a structure. Now this one's got a bunch of gunk in this one and some mold growing on that one, but I'm out of test tubes to swap with. And she does seem like she's doing okay living in the feeding chamber. Yeah, I am in the middle of manufacturing more of the ant med that goes in those to keep the mold down. So I will have to come back to this one next week and do some test tube swapping if she's cooperative. So what's nice about this one's test tube, the old test tube is dirty, the new test tube is clean. And I could swap out that test tube. And that would be nice. Once I have extras. Let's see here. There we go. Alright, just making sure people in my Discord can see my stream. Okay. So one thing that's really nice to see is I had a pretty bad sort of crash for the ants. Like the ants were crashing out, and everybody seems to be recovering really nicely from that. I'm seeing lots of little brood piles and fat little workers, which is great. So this is my entire stack of Modoc that I have right now. Alright, now we have run out of pre-made. And I will have to make some more. I actually just found a replacement test tube. So I am going to switch this one out. Alright. That makes me feel a bit better. Okay, my timer just went off for something I'm working on. Be right back. Okay, and I'm back. Let's see here. All right. So what I've got here is some hummingbird nectar, and it's all natural. Doesn't have any dyes or preservatives or anything like that. And that makes it so then I don't have to worry about the ants getting poisoned by something that they're not supposed to be eating. I use the cotton so then they can stand on the cotton and wick out the liquid. Ants are kind of silly. They tend to get stuck. And they're not very helpful when it comes to hauling each other out. So I do my best not to put them in situations where they get stuck. Now, a lot of how I do this isn't how your typical ant keeper does things. This is closer to an at-scale type operation where I have hundreds of colonies that I'm taking care of. So everything has to be fairly systematized. All right, that is all of the MODOK. So I'll take all of these boxes and put them back. Alright, let's check in on the Lacius. These are Lacius neoniger. See, this is a perfect example of why I'm trying to keep everything nice and clean by switching everything out and washing them in the in-between. Little spots of mold starting to grow in here, places here and there. So I want to just keep everything nice and clean. So this one, I'm trying to get them to move into a clean tube, but they went and threw a bunch of garbage in the new clean tube, so much for that idea. But they're actually doing really good. She's got a couple of workers in there, and it looks like they finished up their food here. I'm really trying to find a new way to feed protein. One of the things I'm hoping to do later today is design basically an ice cube tray that has tiny little ice cubes, and then I want to blend up roaches and put those into the little ice cube tray, and then I'll have little tiny roach protein ice cubes to feed everybody. So here we've got two examples of ones that didn't make it. So I'm going to pull out the clean test tube, and then we'll put that in the garbage pile. I find that Lasius queens, there are usually hundreds of them when they fly, but their death rate seems to be a fair bit higher than other species. They tend to have a lot of parasites, particularly the fly type. Modoc tend to have the more the worm style one, which is really gross. Super not into that. If there was a way to never have to deal with that again, that would be fantastic. The Modoc parasites typically show up early on in the process, and then you don't usually have to mess with that again. So these are all queens that I have in this box, and they are probably going to overwinter in this box. I might move them into founding boxes, but they won't really start their colonies until next year. I'm going to put that in a separate location. As I kind of scale up to larger and larger quantities of ants, keeping everything really organized is becoming more and more important. Here we've got another casualty. It's really hard to say what ends up killing a queen. I've got one little box here of brachymyrmex. That's pretty cool. I've got to restock my food supply here. I'm gonna need to get some music for these live streams. So the thing with brachymyrmex is they're incredibly small. They're called minute ants. And you thought ants were small. Minute ants are even smaller. The workers, if you need glasses to see, probably can't see the workers. The queens are small compared to most other workers, and they're kind of squishy. So if you're trying to collect them, you're going to want to use a receipt or something, like a very thin sheet of paper, and have them walk up onto the piece of paper. Otherwise, you're going to smash them. They've been one of the more challenging species for me to try and raise. Because of their size, they're a lot more prone to kind of edge case scenarios where it's like, if there's static electricity in the plastic test tube you're using, the workers or queen might stick to the edge. Collection is also a big pain. And then on top of that, like, okay, so now you have these teeny tiny ants. What are you going to keep them in? Like, can they just walk out? Which they don't seem to be very adventurous, which is nice. The smaller an ant is, the smaller its range seems to be. There have been some ants that I kept in a pizza dish. So it was a pizza dish with no holes on the bottom, so it was just sort of like a circle tray. And it had a layer of dirt in it, and then the edge I had Vaseline on, and it was just kind of a silly thing, but I kept a little tiny colony of, I think it was Monomorium, just on a pizza dish on my desk for about a year. And the only place that they ever went was from the pine cone that they were living in to the food supply. And they would just make trips, and it'd be like one worker out of 20 would go get the food, and then that was it. They did move from one crust of dirt to the pine cone originally. So that was kind of the only other time that they were moving around. But they never left the circle of the pie dish, and they didn't even try. Like, that was the thing that really amazed me, is they're just happy to live in the pizza dish. If you're watching or you catch up later, feel free to join our Discord. Washington Ants. .com will take you to my website, and you can either pick up ants there or you can go to our Discord link from there. Alright, let's see how these guys are doing. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that in the corner, but that is Brachymyrmex queen. And she's kind of huge, comparatively. Especially with workers. The workers are just tiny. So she's looking good, though. I don't know if you can see that better, but that right there, that's the queen. Ooh. Another thing I'm always trying to pay attention to is I don't want the sugar water to dehydrate. We want them to maintain a good supply of liquid. The Brachymyrmex. So this is what a completed founding box looks like with the light shield. And that makes it so then you can minimalize the disturbance, especially for sensitive queens. These are Campanus novarkensis, and they're beautiful. They have red middles. Their thorax is red. They're just really pretty. I only have 2 of those, and they're recovering. All right, we are moving on to the Formica podzolica. They're kind of your standard black picnic ant. They are incredibly flighty and have a tendency to eat their eggs frequently. It's very obnoxious. I had a group of these growing out on my wall, and for no reason I'm aware of, they just crashed out, and only the queen is left. So not really sure what happened there. All right, we've got another dead one. They're very fast though, which is quite fun. They're a very fast queen, they're a very fast worker. They are also prolific hunters. Hello, Cryptics. Thanks for dropping in. Appreciate it. I'm working on doing this every Wednesday is kind of the goal. And I'll just be feeding my ant colonies and kind of doing a tour as I go through each one. It'll help me stay consistent on taking care of my colonies, and also fun to catch up with folks. So these guys actually have some workers. Let's see if I can get that light down a little bit. There we go. So you can see here, right there, there's a little bit of mold right there on the old test tube, but not the new one. So I can actually switch that out if everybody will just leave and walk out of there. So, which is, with these guys is a huge pain. They do not cooperate very much. So, looks like we're going to be able to make it though. There we go. Nice. All right. Make sure I don't get any workers with that. And here we go. So I sell my colonies in sort of success rate order. And I haven't really set aside any of them for myself. And so these are about as big as what I have right now. And that's about, let's see, that one's about 7 workers is about the max of what I have right now. But I will be kind of starting this year setting aside colonies, and actually these are probably going to end up being sample pieces on my wall. I've got a new ant keeping system that I've been working on. So this mounts on the wall, and then you connect these pieces to it, and I'll be growing those out. And a lot of that is, I kind of have been a beginner ant keeper for 8 years. I have been kind of selling my best inventory first. Just, I want other people to be happy and enjoy it. But after doing that for about 8 years, I'm kind of ready to have a big one for me. And I'm also I'm getting a lot better at being consistent about taking care of them. There is a pretty big degree of kind of the Pokemon mentality of collecting them all and just having a lot of queens, and like that's really fun. But I'm kind of moving out of that and into more of a I want to have my big colony on the wall. And I'm probably gonna have a lot of colonies on the wall, not just one. But I've finally gotten to a place with my work where I can take Wednesdays off now, and Wednesdays are becoming kind of ant care days. So I'm doing live streams, feeding all of my colonies, and what is the other thing? And then making videos. I'm definitely more of an inventor. I'm not as good at consistency. I tend to be highly inspired and poorly diligent. But I've been reworking kind of my life schedule and working towards being a lot more consistent, a lot more diligent. And, you know, I can't not be inspired, so that's just kind of a bonus. So I've been working really hard on making that be a thing. I am really enjoying being more frequent on checking up on my ants. When I have 100 and over 134 queens. How many of those are colonies? I haven't completely mapped all that out, but I'm finally getting to the point now where I can actually keep track of how many of everything I have, and really get to know each one. Eventually, I'd like to barcode them, so then I really know which one is which. Let's see. I have Myrmica, both queens and colonies. I have Lasius, queens and colonies. I have Tetra, queens and colonies. I have Modoc. I have Brachymyrmex, Nova, and I have one kind of goofy other colony as well, but I'm drawing a blank on what that one's called. I found it under a log at the beach, and the whole colony was just right there, so I snagged it up. But every time I've done that, I've had issues, so I don't do that often, but it was a species I hadn't had before, so I thought I'd give it a try. Alright, so that was all of my Podzolica. I do, technically, one or two of the Podzolica might actually be, I'm gonna mess up the name, but it's like Subcianus or something like that. It's just a tiny black picnic ant, and it's part of the Formica species, or Formica group. Also, with my new house where I'm at now, I have the ability to hibernate my ants, so they're actually going to be headed into hibernation soon. And so quite a few of them will be taking a trip to the garage to sleep through the winter. So these guys are the Myrmica. And one of the really rewarding things this year is this is the first year that I've actually been able to grow these guys out. They're a semi-claustral species, so you actually have to feed them as a queen, and that's not something I've been used to or done a bunch of. And so just making sure that they have a consistent food supply. They're actually really easy to start if you can keep them consistently fed. And this is the first year that I've been able to do that well. And I can pick these up off the sidewalk almost all year long, just not during the winter and not the later parts of the autumn. But these guys typically like underneath a rock or underneath a log or whatever. There's quite a few of them available that way. All right, I'm gonna need to get a couple more of these. And I am actually planning on making more videos more consistently, as I have Wednesdays available now to do that. Wow, that's super cool, Cryptics. 6 large colonies and 1 huge fully mature colony, and about 50 queens and colonies. That's really nice. I have this grand plan where I want to have boxes with tunnels and everything's mounted up against my wall, and I would like to have a colony that's, thousands and thousands of workers that spans the entirety of that wall. So I'm really looking forward to being able to do that. What species do you have, Cryptics? I just washed all these earlier, so I gotta dry them off. You don't want to get chlorine water in your ant feeding stuff. It's a real fast way to shorten your lifespan of your ants. Oh man, honey pots. I would love to have some honey pots. A friend of mine gave me like a spare colony that he had just kicking around, and I got to watch them slowly die. It wasn't great. They were already mostly dead by the time I got them. But it was really neat to get to see what they look like. But it was really cool. They're so neat. I've heard Nova Messer, I just don't remember what they look like. Something I'm really excited about is my ant business has actually been doing really well. I've been able to collect and sell a lot of queens this year and last year, and I finally have enough money to upgrade my 3D printing setup. So I'm really excited to get a nicer 3D printer than the one I have. The one I have is very large, but it's the quality is kind of awful, and it's 5 years old, so it's kind of garbage. Very slow and very ugly in its print quality. And I'm very excited to finally get something that's really cool. Let me look them up real quick. I'll look up the Nova Messers just to see what they look like. If I can spell. There we go. Cracks me up how many websites you have to verify that you're human now. Oh, okay, very nice. They look, oh, that makes sense. They look like Myrmica, kind of. Just longer and skinnier. Same color, though, and same kind of basic body structure. I realize as I'm making more ant videos, I don't really want my wall of information that I have in my office kind of just available for everybody. And I was thinking of like just putting push pins up to cover it up, but the more I thought about it, I was like, well, I could just do a magnet board because I'm in a rental right now, so I don't want to punch a bunch of holes in the wall. And as I was thinking about that, I was like, oh man, I want ant magnets. And ended up hiring a couple of 3D artists to try and make some ant magnets for me. Turns out I'm terrible at describing things to people, apparently, and that was a huge fail. I'm probably gonna have to like completely redo that project because all of the stuff that the artists have come up with is absolutely terrible compared to what I was like imagining in my head. How long have you been keeping ants, cryptics? Also, what protein are you feeding your colonies? I'm in the middle of a sort of hunt for the best protein feed, and currently I've heard a lot of really good stuff about roaches. So I currently have a roach colony sitting on my printer. My wife just loves it. That was sarcasm. She's not a fan of the roaches. I'm honestly like almost not a fan of the roaches. It definitely, like, ant keeping definitely has a pretty tough introductory curve. I'm 8 years in. It might be 9 years now. I'm 8 to 9 years into ant keeping, and I feel like I'm just starting to get good. And a lot of that is I've sold all of my best colonies to other people. One second, I've got a thing cooking in the other room. There we go. I had one really big Novoboricensis colony. It had about 400, and I don't know what happened, but they went into some kind of colony spiral collapse thing. They were in a nice big formicarium. Everybody was doing great, and I'm pretty sure it was because I didn't overwinter them properly. The queen just stopped laying eggs, and I think the colony like hobbled along for about a year after that. But once she quit laying eggs, like the colony just folded up, and there was nothing I could do to get it to restart. I tried all sorts of different stuff. The sugar stuff that I feed, I've been finding it pretty interesting how different species like different foods. Not a lot of my ants tend to like honey. They really prefer some kind of sugar. Like they really like cane sugars. And then this is like hummingbird nectar, and they seem to really like hummingbird nectar. My guess is it's pretty similar to whatever they'd be finding out in nature. Nice. That's nice. I wish my colonies were big enough to actually like huck in big chunks of stuff and have them just eat them. I really want to do more research on different types of ants and their food preferences. I have not done enough of that yet. I have heard of different types of ants that have no social stomachs. And so you have to feed them stuff that they can haul around. So that was really interesting. I hadn't realized that was a thing until recently. So the one with the pink label is my daughter's. She found it. She wanted to keep it, so this is hers. And she named it Rocky. So this is Rocky, and her colony. She has 2 workers and a whole pile of brood, and she's doing really good. I always thought it'd be really interesting to keep ants that do the whole mold raising thing. I don't really, or fungus, I guess. I don't know how I would make that work in like a formicarium or whatever, but that would be really cool. One of the guys that has been pretty big in ant keeping here, he is all about parasitics. And so his ants are all the ones that make the mounds and stuff. And he's had some pretty interesting stuff to say about those guys, but messing with parasitics is a bit further down on my list of things to do. I think too, for me, it's like that extra level of work, especially at scale where I have hundreds of ants that I'm taking care of. I'm not ready to take on more responsibility. It's hard enough just to keep up with what I've got, and I'm enjoying it. It's just I don't want to not enjoy it. And I don't have a colony in a place where I could rob from them to make a lot of the parasitics work. And all of the species that use the parasitics tend to be the harder ones for me to find. And so even just raising the source colony for the parasitic colony tends to be a higher priority than me raising the parasitic colony. So that's kind of where I end up on that scale. But I'm really happy with my Myrmica this year. They're doing really good. Do you raise any feeder bugs for your ants? Or do you have a supplier or something that you use for those? I just found a place down in California to buy roaches by the pound. So I'm excited to give that a try. I got my first quarter pound of roaches in the mail the other day, and it worked. I didn't lose very many, so that was nice. And I added them to my already growing pile of roaches, and that seems to be going well. I've been trying to figure out whether I want to just buy feeder insects or if I want to raise them or do some combo. The pricing on bugs is so weird, where something like roaches, you can find them at Petco, but they're literally $1 a piece, or more. And then you can also just buy them by the pound, if you know where to look. And I've been working on the knowing to where to look part, because there's definitely room for that. And when I'm feeding, hundreds of ants, I'd really rather not, pay $1 a piece or whatever. At the same time, there's so much waste in feeding ants, because they'll only eat until they're either full or until the food goes bad or whatever, but that doesn't usually mean it's all of it, because you'd rather feed them in excess than underfeed them. But then you have to yank everything out and keep everything nice and clean, which is what I'm working on now. But making all of that happen has been a lot harder than I expected. My roaches are finally at the mature breeding age, so I should be getting my first I don't know what they're called, not nymphs, but the little tiny, I guess they might be nymphs. The baby nymphs, whatever those are called. So I've got probably close to 200 of those right now. That's my starter colony is about 200 deep. And I'm going to try and make a basically like an ice cube tray, and grind up the roaches in the blender and then smear them across the little ice cube tray, and it'll be like little teeny tiny, like that big packets of ground up roach that goes into each of the little spots, and then that way I can set them out here and I can just dole out like a little teeny dollop into each of the little feeder trays, and that way it's not, nobody gets stuck. I've had it where a brand new colony, I'll feed them something like a mealworm, and the little tiny workers will tunnel through the mealworm long ways, and then they get stuck inside of the mealworm. And at that point, that's some significant portion of your population, and then they die, and then you lose, 50% of your colony, just because some stupid ant crawled down a mealworm and died, and that's just been really frustrating and annoying. So I quit using mealworms, and I haven't gotten anybody stuck in a roach yet. At least as far as I know. Yeah, the grinding up roaches in my blender, yes, very very gross sounding. It's the I have a Vitamix, and they make a metal blender end for it. And so I would like to get the metal blender end and use that one for our food, because we're trying to move away from plastics as much as possible in just our normal kind of food stuff. And so we'd rather have a stainless steel blender body for us, and then I'll take the plastic one and use the plastic one for the ants. And that's what I'll blend my roaches with, which definitely gives my wife the heebie-jeebies. She's not excited for that to happen, but it is pretty funny. I think the hardest part with that is getting enough volume of roaches to actually make the blender function. Because if you're trying to actually blend something and not just drop it in and have it get like pasted on the sidewalls, or actually get like the rotating blending action, I'm gonna need like a pound of roaches to go into the blender. But then kind of the hard part is like, in order for any of that to function, so I have to get enough roaches to make the blender work, and then I have to have a way to preserve and store what I make, because I'm making way too much. So then I have to make the little ice cube tray thing, and I might be able to find one online, but teeny tiny, ice cubes for ants, basically, and then make those and have enough of that to keep making that. And then even as I was thinking about that, it's like, okay, I need it to be able to release properly. Because if I'm 3D printing it, like it might trap the ice cubes if I'm not careful. So I'll probably have to figure all that out as well. So it'll probably end up being quite the project. But I have definitely noticed pretty massive differences. If your ants have free access to good quality protein all the time, they just explode. And I really would like faster and better growth rates and just more stable colonies in general. So I will do what's necessary to make it happen. Cryptics, are you from Washington or are you from somewhere else? Alright, so that is all of the America taken care of. Looks like I missed a box of Lacius. That explains your desert species pretty good. The ants really like it where it's hot. I've been to Kingman, Arizona, and I found a little scorpion that was like a little tiny scorpion. He was see-through. I was in a mine shaft, and I like came down the mine shaft and like landed at the bottom, and he was like right next to my foot. It was a little horrifying. Oh, nice. My brother owned an interest in a gold and silver mine out there, and so we were checking it out, and got to spend a day zapping rocks with a what is it? It's an XRF gun, which is X-ray based. I'm missing the right words here. Not lithography. You vibrate the molecules with X-rays, which excites them, and then they release a photon of light in the specific wavelength of whatever element it is, and that's how you tell what element it is. You zap it with X-rays, and then it gets excited and shoots light back at the machine, and then you can read that reading. but I forgot what it's called. But it's called an XRF gun. But anyway, we had a lot of fun doing that. But yeah, we stayed in Kingman for a couple of days. Alright, so these guys are probably my best ones. They're the Tetramorium queens and colonies. And they are doing fantastic. I'm gonna have to probably work something out here with how I'm doing this, because I gotta make some more little, I gotta clean out a bunch of these. Have you kept any scorpions or anything? Something I've thought about keeping here that only just has sort of showed up is I've been seeing a lot more praying mantises lately. And I would love to find a praying mantis egg cocoon thing, whatever those are called, and then hatching those out. I know a lot of people who've been keeping stick bugs, and stick bugs and praying mantises, in my mind, like seem very similar, and I don't know. I just enjoy the idea of having a praying mantis, or even having praying mantises available for other people. It sounds kind of cool too. So the thing for me with like scorpions and stuff is I really don't want to keep anything that could, put me in the hospital. Are the scorpions you guys have pretty painful? Kind of the basic knowledge I've heard is the smaller they are, the more painful they are. And I don't know how accurate that is. Most of my information comes from my brother's trip to Africa. He got tagged by a scorpion, and he was basically in bed for a couple of days. So that's mostly what I know about scorpions. It comes from him. Okay, well, that's not too bad. Certainly not on my to-do list, but we have rattlesnakes in eastern Washington, and I've run across one of those here. And I'm good. I don't really want to mess with rattlesnakes. I'm okay. Getting poisoned by something like a rattlesnake or, what have you, sounds horrible. Like, just the really bizarre and terrible consequences that all that has. Where it's like, oh look, my kidneys are shutting down, or my skin is melting, or whatever the specific brand of poison is. Super doesn't sound like a fun time to me. Would rather not. But anyway, I forgot what I was talking about. Oh, snakes. Yeah, I'm okay. I kept garter snakes when I was a kid, but then they all got out, and my brother was like horrified of snakes. I haven't seen Cole's Ants. I'll have to check it out. I'm still working on my YouTube and live streaming persona, if you will. How to talk to people and keep conversation going while I'm working. I'll have to check him out. I'm definitely interested in expanding my network of getting to know people and checking people's channels out and stuff. The main kind of person that I've known about and followed is, of course, Ants Canada. He's kind of turned into the Mr. Beast of ant keeping, and I don't know. I haven't watched it in years because of that. It's just not what I'm into. It's not what I'm doing. And I've been looking for people more like Serpa Designs, if you know him. He's a reptile guy, and he does a lot of like build videos and stuff. And that's I typically I'm more natively engineering in what I do. And like right now I'm working on building a magnet wall. And like a magnet board for my wall, and I want to be able to talk about stuff like that on my channel, and not get stuck in like a really specific niche or what have you, because I have a really wide variety of interests that I enjoy. This is how I get confused. I'm multitasking here. Completely no idea which one of those was one that I already did. my sister actually lived in Arizona for a really long time. So she always had stories about swimming pool cleaning and what have you. Yeah, I printed hundreds of them. Each one of these are little founding boxes, and I initially these little things I 3D printed as well, and they're meant to go like this, and I there was too much moisture buildup. And so I decided to go back to the founding boxes. I was trying to compress everything. And this is basically a tub and tube setup. Like if you wanted to do the free version of this, this is a tub and tube setup. It's just the test tubes are constrained inside of the box. You've got a little feeding area with a slide door. But yeah, I designed and 3D printed the whole thing myself. I've been kind of working on that for a while. I even just today was thinking about how to make this a little bit more ant secure. Every now and again you got workers sneaking through the little crack right here. Anyway, so I was thinking about encapsulating the end somehow, so then the glass like slides into a groove. It's not actually glass, it's polycarbonate. But yeah, it's definitely one of those, if you just have one queen or even 10 queens, tubs and tubes make sense. But when you have hundreds of them, you kind of have to, you kind of have to scale your whole operation to work better with. Here we go. Work better at scale, where you've got hundreds of slots that you need to take care of, and if that was a Tupperware container, it would take up like 4 times the volume. Unless you could like find a really uniquely perfectly sized Tupperware box. But even then, like, you pop the lid off and the whole thing like jerks around, and just trying to minimize as much of the shake and the moving and all of that. Because like the Podzolica queens, like, they'll eat their eggs if you vibrate your floor too hard. And it's just like, okay, talking about picky. So I've been trying to keep test tubes from rolling around. These also have an option to have a little slide here that covers them up. And that's how I sell them. I sell them with that. They're available on my website. That's been really helpful. And then also just being able to slide the door up and pop some food in. That way you're not, uncorking a test tube and then what is it called? And then you have ants trying to pour out the end. So speaking of 3D printing ant boxes, this is an ant box I've been working on. It's sort of not working right now. My printer is garbage and keeps bending the edge of this. I don't know if you can see it, but it like flares. But it has an insert in here that is a dwarven forge. Anyway, I had that designed by a 3D artist, and then I designed the exterior box. And then I took that idea and I've miniaturized it. And this is my little starter kit box. And it's got like textured sides and glass front and magnetic top. And then the glass slides out, so then if you need to clean it out later, you can. And then I've got these little pre-made connectors, so then you can pop all your stuff on there. This is called the mini bar, the Sky mini bar, and then this is just a nursery block, and the test tube that your ants are in can just connect right in here. And then eventually I'm making inserts for these. So these will have themed inserts as well. And then the whole thing mounts vertically on your wall. These have sticky on the back. It has little screw slots built in. Anyway, so that's something I just kind of wrapped up making my initial version of those. Yeah, I'm planning on doing sand coatings for the inserts, and this is the bare blank model. It's meant to be kind of DIY. You can paint everything and you can glue the sand in and all that kind of stuff. The only problem is that one's so big. It's a bear to print. It takes over a day to print both the inside and the outside, and so I'm slowly getting that all sorted out. And that was why I miniaturized it, is now instead of taking a day to make one, I can do multiple in a day. I can print 5, I think, in a day of the small ones. And so once I make an insert for the small one, then I can get really creative on, what kind of scenes. I would absolutely love to do some like steampunk inserts, some western inserts, some space themed ones. I really want to do like a lunar one where they're digging into the lunar bedrock, and then you can see that they hit like some kind of alien construct, and then it's cracked open, and then that's where you like plug in the ants, so then the ants like come out of the sort of the alien stasis chamber looking thing. Anyway, that's something I would really enjoy. And then you can kind of do a similar idea with a western one where there's a mine shaft going down, and then too I'd like to do a couple of like cozy modern ones where it's like a little apartment building, and the ants live inside of the little apartments and stuff. And that way you're really combining kind of wall art with ant keeping. And that way when people are like, oh, what's this? And they're like, oh, this is adorable, instead of, you, why do you have bugs on your wall? Which I've gotten a fair bit. At the same time, most everybody's pretty cool about ant keeping, which is nice. Yeah, I actually I stocked Tar Heel ant nests for a really long time, and the thing that bugged me about those is his ant boxes, the voids that the ants live in, I think are too big. I don't think the ants actually enjoy being that exposed. And so something I'm really trying to do is, as I work on my design, I really would like to trim down the tunnel size and then the chamber sizes And also, ants get bored. And I would really like more play areas for the ants, like inside of the thing, but at the same time, you don't want to lose being able to watch the ants. And so I've been doing a lot of testing with sand formicariums. And it's actually been really nice to see how well the ants stay visible in a sand formicarium. Like they will really tone next to the glass. And I've also done a lot of experiments with casting and kind of in effect trying to make some kind of knockoff of what Tar Heel does. And I haven't figured out how to do casting yet. Like casting is just way outside of my scope of abilities right now. But yeah, they are pretty expensive. Foranto and Tar Heel are kind of the pinnacle of what I consider what an ant box should look like. But functionally, I'm not sure how either of those work in the long term. Foranto makes like really fancy wooden nests, and a lot of my ants are carpenter ants. And while they won't necessarily, dig through hardwood soon, eventually the nest is going to get wet, and then it's probably going to start rotting. So that's kind of something I've thought a lot about with wooden nests and stuff, but I'm not there for it yet. And then the stuff that they make the Tar Heel nests out of is what do you call it? It's UltraCal 30 or 40 or whatever. Nice. I had, I still have, it's just in the garage, not being used. One of Tar Heel's Fortress 3s, I think, if I remember correctly. It was that big old long thing. And I definitely like the look of the Labyrinth. The Labyrinth looks pretty sick. Like I said, the Tar Heel does a fantastic job on like quality of aesthetic, and they really are like good boxes. I used a ton of his little the mini hearths. I used a whole ton of those. But kind of as I've kept ants for longer and longer, I've gotten away from forcing the ants to be in the open. Is kind of a thing that I'm trying to get away from. And at this point, like, I don't have enough data to really know a ton. But it's I'll do some tests on what the ants like, because that's kind of what I'm aiming for. Is I want the ants to be happy, but I also want it to look cool. Yeah, the sort of tunnels with hanging ants would be amazing. That would be super fun. I still haven't made the inserts yet for the small one, because that's about a $300 project, and it's behind my other. We have a dead one. It's behind my other projects in its priority. What do you need, bud?
I'm staying quiet.
Oh, you're staying quiet?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Are you staying quiet too? So that one was an escapee that was sitting on top.
She was saying,
I'm pretty sure I'm gonna do a giveaway in the next couple of months of the new boxes. What are you doing? What are you doing?
hey Dad,
Yeah?
I don't know, we'll stay upstairs.
Mom,
They've escaped.
Mom, but here's, I don't
Hey.
want to be quiet.
Don't touch those. Don't touch those.
I'm quiet.
Head on out, guys. Yeah, I'm pretty excited to have Wednesdays to make more content. Live streaming is just kind of an easy grab right now. Because the main thing I've committed to is I'm feeding my ants every Wednesday. And so if I'm sitting here feeding my ants every Wednesday, I might as well talk to people. So here I am. And then as that progresses, I'll be doing a better job at making videos. I have one filmed right now. I just have to get it edited. And there's a girl that's going to do my editing for me, but she needs a computer, so I'm waiting for that to all get sorted out as well. And in the meantime, I have to edit my own videos, and coming up with editing my own videos as well as filming them on top of taking care of all of the ants. It's an awful lot to keep track of in my head, and I have to maintain a certain amount of passion availability for each project, and I'm running out of that space. I have a friend who's gonna help me do more filming, because there's a lot of videos I'd like to make where I'm out hunting for ants, and I'm lifting rocks and talking about what I find underneath and all that kind of stuff. But it's really hard to do by yourself when you're holding your phone or holding a phone stick or what have you. The project videos I'm a lot more able to do by myself, but when I go outside, I really need an extra pair of hands. So my wife has been helping me out with that, and then my friend has also been kind of figuring out how to be helpful, which is really fun. Whoa, look at that. That's cool. Hopefully this shows up on camera. There we go. That is probably my biggest colony that I have right now. Sorry, the camera's not an auto-focusing camera, so it's just kind of stuck the way it is. But that one's doing really well. I might hold that one aside. I will definitely check out Cole's ants. That one sounds really intriguing. I'm also kind of wanting to show up at like the reptile convention. I went as just a customer this year down in Puyallup, and that was a blast. That was crazy. There were so many people, and so many really cool bugs, critters, reptiles, like you name it, it was there. There were people with rats and bunnies and all kinds of stuff. That was a ton of fun. So I'd kind of like to go as a vendor one of these days. All right, we're almost done. So all I have left is just these overwintering queens. And it looks like they're doing pretty good. So these Lacius, they are, you can't really see her eggs, they're little tiny white specks there. But typically they have to overwinter. But the best of them tend to lay eggs before the winter, but that's only like 1% of them. So it's pretty impressive. They're all doing really good. So I can then adjust my inventory on my website. I'm definitely shifting towards keeping more stuff for myself as time goes on. Cryptics, excuse me. And then this is the weird random colony that I got on the beach, and I'm pretty sure the queen died before I moved them into this, so I don't really expect them to do well, because I'm pretty sure that they're toast. But here they are. I have them anyway. Let's see here. Get that cleaned out. And I'll make a separate one of them. I always make too much of the food. Can never get the perfect amount in there. I was kind of shocked at how many ants I was able to find on the beach recently. That's one of the videos I already have pre-recorded that hasn't been posted yet. And just turning logs over on the beach, I was able to find tons and tons. Like all of the myrmica I have are from just being down on the beach. All right, so I will start cleaning up all this mess here. We gotta pick all of the cotton out of these. It was pretty fun. I got my friend into ant keeping, so now he found a Tetramorium queen, and I just gave him kind of a whole kit to go with it. So he's pretty excited about that, and he already has a whole bunch of workers. The Tetramorium are such easy keepers, and they grow really nicely. They're probably my favorite starter species. You know, I haven't tried using sponges. That would be an interesting route to go. I guess the question would be, how dirty does it get? Like, do you wash them, or do you just throw them away? Like, what's your tactic on that? That does actually sound pretty solid. Other than, you know, what kind of maintenance or whatever might be required. Nice. Well, and especially like if it's a large colony, like if you're feeding them like an entire syringe full of sugar or whatever, then a sponge would be a pretty solid way to go. I've also been doing like test tubes with cotton ends. Oh, interesting. They don't mold up as much as cotton. Man, I'm gonna have to try that. I'll be really interested to see how that goes. And these are just the lid caps that came with my test tubes. I buy my test tubes by the 1,000. So I end up with a lot of these caps, and so I've just been reusing the caps. So they're supposed to go like that. That's what they're supposed to do, but I'm just using them as a little bucket. But I might end up 3D printing basically like itty bitty food trays, which is kind of hysterical and adorable. But in a perfect world for me, I would love to have like a two-sided food tray where you could put the little frozen protein cube on the one side, and then you could put the sugar containing stuff on the other side. And so having some sponges might be just the ticket for that. That would be pretty neat. I will add that to my list of projects to work on. Explore sponge usage. Because I do end up having a lot more consumables than I'd like to have. I would prefer not to have so many things that I have to just kind of go through and throw away. Do you use a sponge for even inside of a test tube setup? Because that would also be pretty interesting. One of the things that that I've developed is a plunger. So this is my my test tube plunger. So all of my test tubes are plunged to exactly the same distance. Yeah, definitely do that, Cryptics. Shoot me a link to whatever you got. I'm happy to learn new stuff. Kind of another thing, I'm realizing that I don't spend as much time as I used to in any of the chats or kind of where the research is happening, in the sense of like out in the public spaces where people are talking about what they're doing. I haven't spent a lot of time hanging out on, you know, an AMP forum or what have you, like I used to. Because when everything was brand new and starting, and there weren't Discord channels, there were just forums and that kind of stuff. There was a lot more information that I was running across. I was learning more back then. And I really want to spend more of my time kind of seeing what everybody else has found to work, so then I can kind of compile that and then share that with other people. Because I am planning on upping my video production to the point where I do get monetized, and so I will be increasing my surface area online, if you will. And I'd love to be able to provide better information, not only take care of my ants better, but help everybody take care of their ants better. Because I get a lot of people asking a ton of questions about, am I doing this right, or is there a better way to do this, or, you know, my ants died, was there anything I could have done differently, or you know, and in some cases, you know, whatever happened to their ants was inevitable, and in other cases, you know, they just were inexperienced and made mistakes. And so I'd love to be able to get rid of as much of that as possible, and just only have it be the unavoidable stuff. And I'd love to get to know people who are more in the scientific end of things, because I have been a part of a new discovery of ants research that happened, and that was really cool. And I'd like more connections in that space, because I'm absolutely terrible at what do you call it? Taxonomy. Like I'm awful at taxonomy. Which is a crack up to me, because growing up, like, taxonomy was something that was part of my education, and I was like, what is this ever going to be used for? And come to find out, my primary hobby is highly related to taxonomy, which just cracks me up, because that's not something I ever would have dreamed being a thing when I was a kid. And I have to say, like, studying teeny tiny critters is really cool. You end up learning a ton. And I love learning, so I'm totally here for that. Thanks, Cryptix. I'll check it out. I'm super excited to see what you've got. Oh, that's super cool. That's super neat. That's the kind of stuff that I love, where it's like, you know, I may not be a scientist person, but like I'm out in the woods, you know, exploring and finding bugs and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, oh, hey, look, science book is wrong. They live all the way over here. And that's a ton of fun. That's really neat. Trapdoor spiders are crazy. I learned a ton about like bigger beetles and stuff that I didn't know lived around here. And then also I've been wanting to get into butterflies, and so I caught a couple of moths and butterflies and stuff, and tried raising those up. That was super fun. They grow wildly fast. The what is it? The white. What is it called? The white Virginia moth, tiger moth, white Virginia tiger moth. I got one of those and got it to actually lay a bunch of eggs on a piece of paper bag. So that was neat, and then I raised them from there. Nice work on actually knowing what it was. I wouldn't have known. I would just be like, hey, there's a big spider over here. Because I am not up on my arachnids. All right, well, I think that's going to wrap it up for us for today. Thanks for coming along, and if you're checking this video out later, I appreciate it. Consider subscribing if you haven't, and if you're looking for more bug content, you know, we'll have all kinds of stuff going on here soon. So look forward to that. All right. Thanks for joining us, Cryptics. Thanks for making the show. So have a good day.